Hi, this is Brandon Smitley from Thirst Gym in Terre Haute, Indiana. Today we're talking about aerobic work for powerlifting. Now this might sound a little bit controversial. You might think, well, why do I need to do aerobic work if I'm focusing on my 1 rep max or focusing on being a competitive powerlifter? How does the aerobic system play into that? And we're briefly going to talk about how the aerobic system can benefit your maximal strength gains. So to give you a brief background for my best powerlifting performance, I was doing I don't want to say the most aerobic work, but I had a good aerobic base. It's when I thought I was in the best shape of my life. I had a resting heart rate of around 48 beats per minute in the morning. I was walking anywhere from 2 to 4 days per week, either on a treadmill inside or outside, and it was only for about 15 to 20 minutes. And that's when I also felt my strongest. So I put together my best meet performance, not only in an individual meet, but I put together almost all my best numbers. So I broke the all-time world record squat at 132. I squatted 567. I hit my all-time best bench press of 330, and I also pulled 501, and I had a 1377 pound total in the 132 pound weight class. So that was my best total from that training cycle. And over on Elite FTS, you can find that exact squat cycle that I used, and you can see the amount of workload that I was able to not only perform, but to be able to recover from. And that's very, very much based upon the fact that I was doing good quality aerobic work. I have no doubt in saying that. So with all that aside now, how would I recommend that you do this? My first thing, I would break this up into 2 separate groups. The first one is going to be if your resting heart rate is greater than 70 beats per minute. And then the second one is going to be your resting heart rate is less than 70 beats per minute. Okay? So you need to ask yourself, which group are you in? Are you in group 1 or group 2? Because the approach that you're going to take is going to be slightly different. Now, I will tell you that I have no scientific evidence to support any of these claims. This is merely from my experience of working with other, not only competitive powerlifters, but athletes, personal training for a long time, all of my education that I've been given. That's how I've basically gotten all of my knowledge to be able to figure this out. So if you're in the first group, that's what we're going to cover first, and then we're going to cover the second group. So for the first group here, if this is you, this probably means that you're not in the greatest shape. You're probably overweight, not focusing on good nutritional habits, your sleep's probably not that great, and overall your training is probably just not the best. I'm not saying that you're not strong. Some of the best powerlifters of all time have generally been overweight, super heavyweight guys, especially when you're looking more into the equipped world, getting gear to fit and everything. But for this population, for the average person that's powerlifting and wanting to improve their strength, and powerlifting is not something you're going to make money off of, then this tells me that you need to work on the aerobic work before you focus on the powerlifting work. Okay? Doesn't mean that you can't strength train, just that our priorities need to shift momentarily until we can get into group 2. So what I would suggest is that the first thing you're going to want to do for this is you're going to want to walk for 10 to 15 minutes, 3 to 5 times per week. Okay? So this is going to immediately help your heart health. It's going to get you moving more. You've probably got a relatively sedentary lifestyle if you're probably in this group. Not necessarily, but more cases than not, you probably are. So I would like to see you walk 10 to 15 minutes at your own pace. It could be outside, treadmill, could be part of your warm-up. I just really want to see that to be able to get you moving around and get some good quality circulation. The second piece that I would recommend is that you're going to want to superset accessory work. Okay, so what we're going to try to get from this is we're going to try to improve your training density. We're going to try to take some of the little work that you normally do just entirely independently. You do some press downs, you walk around, talk to people, check your phone, face pulls, leg curls, whatever. Let's try to optimize not only our training time, but get our density a little bit better. That's going to help us not only move and feel a little bit better, it's going to save on time, but that's also maybe going to help make and carve more room for the walking if you need it, but I think you're going to get a better training effect. Now, you may not be able to use as much load as you're used to, but again, we got to remember, until you get out of group 1, our main thing is to improve our aerobic work and get in better shape. So that would be my second one. And the third piece I'm going to be telling you is to lower the volume on your main lifts. Now you're going to ask, why would you decrease your volume on the main lifts? Well, this is going to immediately take a little bit of a hit to your strength initially. You're not going to be able to recover from everything, just throwing everything all at once. So I would start slow, only 2 or 3 days a week to start, but your goal is to get to 3 to 5 times per week. But that may initially inhibit your strength gains. But since this isn't our main priority, let's drop our volume a little bit and let's just keep our intensity high. So you might work up to a hard set of 3, a hard set of 2, hard set of 5, something like that, and then shut it down and then move on to your accessory work and just be able to get that work capacity up through the accessory work. And then you'll see that once you begin to level off, then your strength will begin to start to come back, and then you're going to be able to do more overall work, not only on your main lifts, but through your accessory work if you're not supersetting them anymore. So that would be my 3-prong approach to being able to get out of this first stage. So if we look at the second stage, this is a little more complicated. All right, we got a little bit more to go through in terms of the recovery aspect of it to be able to benefit. So if you are in this second group here and your resting heart rate is less than 60 beats per minute, or around 60 beats per minute, we'll put around 60 beats per minute. Okay, you're probably in decent shape. You've probably been training a while. You probably got decent nutritional habits. Your sleep's probably a little bit better. So we've got to change some things to be able to get this to work for us, right? So the first thing that I'm going to recommend on here is that we look to optimize our training time. So we need to get some kind of aerobic work in, but I don't necessarily think that you have to walk. Walking is what worked well for me, so I think you need to look at your schedule. So the first thing that I'm going to recommend is that you look at time. How much time do you have? I don't have a whole lot of time in my life anymore. I can't spend 3 to 5 days a week walking 10 to 20 minutes. I just don't have it. I don't have the treadmill. I don't have access to that stuff anymore. So what looks best for my time? Is it an extra session? All right. So are we looking at extra sessions? Extra mini sessions specifically. All right. And that could be your accessory work piled together into a circuit. You're just saving your accessory work for a little bit later, get some extra work in. That works really well. The other thing you can look at is intervals in terms of how you train. So this could be like the bike, could be prowler, could be med ball work. Anything like that where you can get some interval work in is going to help your aerobic base, but also is not going to necessarily take away from your strength. And then the other one that I would look into outside of looking at your time is, can you do something within the session itself that you already have? So if you've got 3 or 4 days a week of training that you're already performing, what can you get in there? So I would first recommend that you try to pair things with what you're training for the day. So if it's a heavy day that's a high CNS output day, I would try to match it with something that's also high in the CNS output. So if you're looking at, I'm going to say high CNS, then we're talking about some of these things like sprints, things that are more sprint related. Sprint and they're hard. Okay? If you have the decreased CNS, so let's say that you're doing a light or mini session or something like that, or it's just not a hard training day, maybe you have a squat, bench, deadlift accessory day, it's your accessory day. This is when I would put your walking or your low and easy base stuff to match that, okay? That's based off of Charlie Francis' high-low system. It's nothing revolutionary. That's just the way that I would look at it. What you want to avoid is the medium area. You do not want to be in a medium area of where you're not quite sprinting, but you're not walking. Jogging, tempo work. Tempos can be okay for like sports performance and stuff, but I think for powerlifting, you're not really trying to run a whole lot. You're trying to enhance the 1RM, and I don't think running is necessarily the most conducive to being the best at this. So the medium stuff is what you want to try to avoid. So once you got the schedule figured out and you figure out what you're going to do, that basically gives you your modalities, and then you just have to be consistent. So what I was doing on the days that I had low or in between clients, I would just get my 15 to 20 minutes of walking in there, and that's where I got my low CNS stuff. I really didn't do a whole lot of sprints and stuff because I chose to go with the low CNS output myself. But again, you got to look at your schedule and your time and what works best for you and what you have access to. So any of these options are a way to help improve your aerobic base for that. The other thing, obviously, that's very common with Louis Simmons and the Westside Barbell systems are the sled work. So if you're looking at the sled work, I would just make sure that you're probably only doing this once or twice a week at the absolute most. So just 1 to 2 times. And again, you're probably going to be looking at 10 to 20 minutes in duration. And you want to make sure it's relatively easy. Okay? You're not going to kill yourself with the sled. You're not going to try to just get a hard workout and be a badass. That's not the point of it. We're trying to rejuvenate things, get our aerobic system going, get our heart rate up to a moderate level. We don't want to get past 120 beats per minute. So you're looking 1 to 2 times, 10 to 20 minutes per session that you're going to do. And the nice thing is it's very concentric only. It's going to get a lot of blood flow, but you will see no soreness from the sled work. So that's how that would be implemented. If you don't have a sled, ignore that piece. You don't have to do it. I think it's a good investment. But again, not everybody has the space, the time, the weather, the facility. I totally understand. And sometimes just walking is the better option. So this would be your other option to be able to increase that GPP, to increase your aerobic base for that powerlifting 1 rep max or your general strength. And the other thing I would say is the fact that you have to think of number 3, which is also probably the most important, is what are your goals? Okay? What are you willing to sacrifice for those goals? You know, if you want to be a world record holder, you're going to have to do stuff, maybe a little bit more aerobic work conditioning, focusing on your nutrition, some other stuff like that, to be able to get that there. If you're focusing on longevity of your life and you just want to improve your numbers and just be a decent power lifter, you want to squat 600 or whatever, like that's not unattainable. Maybe for someone my size, but for the average person that's 200 pounds, it's very realistic. And you just need enough aerobic capacity to be able to accomplish that goal. So that's the big thing to keep in mind is context. What are your goals? You may have to do more, do or do less. Obviously, you have family commitments, work, job, life. All that is a big factor into what you're going to do and what you're going to have to do to get stronger. Just don't let anybody tell you that doing aerobic work will kill your total, because it definitely won't. But you got to remember that there is such thing as too much. It does exist. Okay, you can do too much of this and then this will go down. Okay, so there is a balance. You need to get to a point where you feel good, your recovery good, your heart rate feels good, you have good work-life balance, you just feel like, hey, this is a good spot to be, and then you just maintain that level the best you can. The nice thing is once you get there, sometimes you can pull back just a little bit and you'll hold about right where you want to be. And when you're in doubt, when you're not recovering, that's when you have to start to look at other factors outside of there. If you're not getting enough sleep, food, and nutrition, and water, that could be the key, not necessarily aerobic work, but the aerobic work could be adding on to it. So you've got to find that balance of everything that you're doing. And I think that gives you enough information to be able to make some educated guesses. I don't think there is a one-size-fit-all approach. Again, that's just what I found that has worked really well for many of the lifters that I've worked with, my personal experience, and then obviously working with the athletic population that I work with on a daily basis. We have to try to consider how we improve performance, and considering 1 rep max for powerlifting is the ultimate performance indicator. You don't want to push too hard on the aerobic work, but you also don't want to ignore it at all. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. You can check out more information over at elitefts.com on that article that I have. You can also check out more of the information from me on Instagram or on this YouTube channel. If you got any questions, feel free in the comment section. Thanks. See ya.